My roommate has been drawing the same symbol for 3 weeks straight, and I just found out it's a doorway to hell. It started innocently enough. Jake was an art major, so finding sketches scattered around our dorm room wasn't unusual. What was unusual was how he'd wake up with charcoal-stained fingers, confused and disoriented, claiming he didn't remember drawing anything the night before. The symbol itself was intricate, a series of interlocking circles with angular lines cutting through them, surrounded by what looked like ancient script. Every sketch was identical, down to the smallest detail. The precision was unsettling, especially considering Jake claimed to have no memory of creating them. I decided to investigate when I found the 15th identical drawing tucked under his pillow. A reverse image search led me down a rabbit hole of occult forums and digitized grimoires. What I found made my blood run cold. The symbol was called the threshold marker ritual diagram used by medieval cultists to weaken the barriers between dimensions. According to the texts, when drawn with intent and repeated dedication, it could create what they called a viewing window into other realms. The forums were filled with warnings: never complete the symbol, never draw it 13 times, and never, under any circumstances, draw it in your own blood. I counted Jake's sketches that night. 12. The room had been growing colder each day, and our electronics kept malfunctioning. My laptop would randomly display static, and my phone's camera showed dark shapes that weren't visible to the naked eye. I attributed it to the old building's wiring, but now I wondered if something else was causing the interference. Jake's behavior was changing too. He'd sit for hours staring at empty corners, occasionally nodding as if responding to a conversation I couldn't hear. When I asked who he was talking to, he'd look genuinely confused and claim he'd been silent the entire time. On a Thursday night, I pretended to sleep while watching Jake through half-closed eyes. At exactly 3:17 a.m., he sat up rigidly, his movements mechanical and unnatural. His eyes were open but unfocused, staring at something beyond the physical world. He reached for his sketchpad with trembling hands. This time was different. As he drew, the charcoal seemed to glow with a faint, sickly light. The lines appeared to etch themselves into the paper before his hand even touched it, as if he was merely tracing something already there. The air in the room grew thick and oppressive, and I could swear I heard whispers in a language that hurt to listen to. When he finished, Jake set down the charcoal and spoke in a voice that wasn't entirely his own. The door is complete. The threshold awaits. The 13th symbol began to pulse with that same unholy light, and the paper started to burn not with flame, but with shadows that consumed the white space around the drawing. The symbol remained untouched, growing brighter as everything else was devoured by darkness. Through the burning paper, I saw something that defied description. It wasn't another room or landscape, it was an absence, a void that somehow contained movement and intelligence. Something vast and patient was watching from the other side. And it had been watching for a very long time. Jake stood and walked toward the glowing portal, his movements still unnaturally stiff. As he reached the edge of our reality and stepped through the paper that had become a doorway, he turned back to look at me. His eyes were his own again, filled with terror and recognition of what was happening. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "It made me draw them. It's been here all along, waiting for someone to let it see through." Then he was gone, pulled into that hungry darkness. The portal collapsed, leaving only ashes and the acrid smell of burnt reality. I found the security footage the next morning. For 3 weeks, it showed Jake sitting alone in our room, drawing frantically while carrying on animated conversations with empty air. In every frame, he was nodding and responding to something that cast no shadow, made no sound, and left no trace except for the 13 symbols that had finally opened the door it needed. The sketches are gone now, turned to ash. But sometimes, in my peripheral vision, I catch glimpses of Jake standing in the corner of the room, his mouth moving silently, his eyes wide with warning. And on my desk, I've started finding new drawing symbols I don't recognize, drawn in a hand that isn't mine. I think it's looking for a new artist. The whispers have already begun.